We are learning about absolute value equations today. I know I've got this, but I can solve absolute value equations. So if A is a positive number, then you have to say the absolute value of A, it could either be positive or negative A. You need to isolate the absolute value on one side of the equation before you do anything else. That's very important to know. So, all right, we're going to solve the absolute value of P equals 5. So what you want to do is if P, the absolute value of P equals 5, then that means that it could equal 5 and it could equal negative 5. So you have to write both. So the solution set for this would be negative 5 and 5. That's it. Because the absolute value of 5 is 5 and the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Okay, so 1B, we're going to set up just like we did the last one. Everything in the parentheses, everything in the absolute value sign has to be positive, or you have to set it to negative. So let's try that again. So 6 plus 2n could also equal negative 4. So what's inside the absolute value could either equal positive 4 or negative 4. Notice I'm not changing the sign of anything inside the absolute value. I'm just changing what it is equal to. And then you solve. So 2n equals negative 2. N could equal negative 1. Or if I solve this one, n could equal negative 5. So you can write the solutions are negative 1 and negative 5. Okay, so remember what I told you in the beginning, that it is very, very important that you isolate the absolute value before you set it up both ways. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is isolate that absolute value. So I've got the absolute value of 2x equals 10. Now that it's by itself, that's when I set it up and say, okay, what's in an absolute value could either equal positive 10 or negative 10. And then solve it both ways. So I've got x could equal 5 or x could equal negative 5. Okay, you go ahead and try one. Since it's equal to 0, you can't have a positive and negative 0, so your only answer would be 0. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So we've got multi-steps here. So remember, isolate that absolute value first before you do anything else. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and I'm going to get the absolute value of 3z minus 2 equals negative 7. What happens here? It's no solution because an absolute value can never equal a negative number, because the absolute value is the distance away from 0. So since immediately when you have an absolute value equaling a negative number, you can just put no solution. Okay, so again, on this one, you have an absolute value equaling a negative number. So you're going to say it's no solution. Absolute value is never, ever negative. All right, so how do we do this? Okay, so I can set this up both ways. So I have to say that what's inside the absolute value, 9y plus 1, can equal the 6y plus 4, or the 9y plus 1 can equal a negative 6y plus 4. And it works both ways, right? So if you had the positive 6y plus 4, you could have a positive 9y plus 1. Or if you had a positive 6y plus 4, you would have a negative 9y plus 1, which you would get on this second setup by dividing by negative 1. So either way, it gives you the same thing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and solve both. So I'm going to get like terms together. So I'm going to subtract my 6y here. And I'll get 3y plus 1 equals 4. 3y equals 3, divide by 3, and I'll get y equals 1. Or the first thing that I'm going to have to do in the second setup is distribute that negative. And now I can combine like terms. So I'm going to add 6y to both sides. And we get 15y plus 1 equals -4. So subtract the 1, get 15y equals -5. Divide the 15, and you would get y equals -1/3. So your answers are -1/3 and 1. Okay, you go ahead and try this one. Pause it. Okay, so your setup should have looked like this. On the second setup, when you do that, your x's will cancel each other out, and you'll just get -4 equals -6, which is a false statement. So the only solution for this one is 5. Okay, here's some extra practice. So go ahead and try some of these. I'm going to move this for a second so you can see that. Pause it. Okay, and here are your answers. All right, so I know I've got this when I can solve absolute value equations. Do you really understand though? No, you don't. That's from my daughter because we're staying at home right now and she put that in there. Okay, and we've got the little dog going on. We got a lot going on this slide right now. What two equations are equivalent to the equation x, the absolute value of x plus 5 minus 3 equals 0? What are the solutions? So the two equivalent equations are x plus 5 equals 3 and x plus 5 equals -3, and then -2 and -8 are the solutions. How many solutions does the equation absolute value of x equals -1 have? None, because absolute value can never ever be negative. All right, I hope you have enjoyed this and the little dog floating up in the air. Have a great day.